What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. In this episode, I wanted to just kind of check in, say hello, and also talk about a brand new thing that happened this morning where the Disc Golf Pro Tour has announced that it has been sold. Steve Dodge, no longer involved in the tour, has sold it to Todd Rainwater. If you guys are not familiar, he is the gentleman who runs the Nantucket event, and I believe he has the property there, and he kind of tried to build that Nantucket event into something, and they have the Raz Round, and then GBO also adopted the Raz Round this year and named it after him because it was his idea, I guess. That's honestly about all I know about this gentleman. I really don't know much else about him. I'm assuming he has some money. I don't know whether it's some family money or what the situation is, but he obviously had to have some money to buy the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and also, you know, having property and stuff in Nantucket, I'm sure is not cheap. So he has been announced as the new owner. He's purchased the tour, and Jeff Spring will be the new tour director. Jeff is the tournament director and the course designer for the Green Mountain Championships and the courses up there in Vermont at Smuggler's Notch. He also was one of the, I believe he was one of, if not like the main tournament director for the Portland Open. So I met him briefly while I was there, but just over kind of talking about some of the fundraiser discs that were there. I didn't really talk to him about anything else. So yeah, this is something I heard about first thing this morning when I woke up. Andy had sent me a text about it, and I read through the article, and I don't know, I'm trying to think like what my initial thoughts are. Honestly, the first thing that popped into my head was about Steve. I was like, oh, I hope Steve is happy with this. I hope this is something that he wanted to do and didn't feel like he had no other option but to do. I don't really know the ins and outs there. I'm hoping to maybe, I was thinking maybe after the MVP Open is wrapped up, I can get Steve on Skype and kind of have a quick interview with him about everything. If he's no longer involved in the tour, I would love to talk to him more about all of the issues with the media over the off season and all the troubles there, and more about this sale and what it means and why this all went down the way it went down. It's interesting for sure. But mostly, I was just like, man, I hope Steve's okay. You know, I hope it's not like a bad thing, you know, for him. I hope he's like happy with this and this is like a relief, or, you know, this is a good thing for him. He seems fine. I reached out to him quickly and just said, hey, you know, thank you so much for everything you've done for pro disc golf, and you know, I appreciate you. Best of luck with whatever you do going forward. And he got right back to me and said, hey, we succeeded. Congratulations to all of us. Like, people love disc golf. They want to watch it. They care about it. That was the goal. And he thanked me for my involvement. And he seems fine. He didn't, you know, I guess it was just a quick email correspondence, so it's not like there's any tone there or anything. And it's not like I know him that well. It's not like we're like great friends or anything, but I have a lot of respect for Steve Dodge and the way he has carried himself over the years, what he's done to build the Pro Tour and take it from nothing to where it is now, and for a number of other reasons. He's just been very good to me and to a lot of the people in the disc golf community over the years. And I really like Steve, and I hope whatever comes next for him is successful and he's happy in doing so. So maybe I can track down Steve for a quick interview. It's funny, last episode I actually mentioned to you guys that I was just not feeling quite as invested in the professional side of things and watching disc golf and stuff as I usually am for this time of year. And I think I kind of came to the realization that perhaps it was all of the unrest early on in the season in terms of the media, losing Jomez and Smashbox and that whole thing, and all of the backlash from the fan base and all of the negative connotations that came along with that. It was just a really weird time. And then the first few events, the coverage wasn't what we wanted, wasn't what we expected. And I kind of came to the realization that I think that's probably why I was feeling the way I'm feeling, you know, is that we kind of lost out on that proven formula that was working so well in the previous season of Smashbox Live, Jomez, Central Coast, you know, like even with them flip-flopping back back and forth who gets to cover the finals and that sort of thing, or who gets to cover lead card, or whatever, however they did it. I always kind of felt like it would have made more sense to just keep it across the board, one on lead card, one on second card. But I understand why they did what they did, and they tried to keep it fair and spread the love a little bit, and all that's good. And it was just working so well, and then to have all of that kind of get broken up, I think, is what bothered me and bothered so many of the fan base. Now, I was not out there just bashing the Disc Golf Pro Tour or saying terrible things about Steve, because I'm a lot more, understanding about these things than some fans were. Some people were really upset and just wanted to just kind of badmouth Steve, like he was doing this to screw over people, or because he wanted money for himself, or all these weird things that are just really baseless and made no sense. He must have had some reasons, but I don't know. There was also this person involved in the Disc Golf Pro Tour named Danielle Charlier, I believe is how her last name was pronounced, and she was involved. She was kind of there. We never saw her. We never really heard much from her personally, but she was definitely involved and was part of the decision-making process. From what I understand, she was going to be involved in running the coverage, and then like right before the season started, she just disappeared, left the tour, and that was it. We never heard anything else about it. I have and always have had, since this whole thing started, some thoughts that perhaps she was much more involved in the decision making to take the media in-house and to move away from Jomez and Smashbox than we all know. I feel like she was potentially, again, this is wild speculation. I have absolutely no real concrete evidence for this. It's just my thought and feeling on the situation for what it's worth. I feel like she had more to do with these decisions than we know, and maybe just panicked at the last second, realizing what they were going to have to try to do without the people who know how to do it well. And all of a sudden they were left scrambling to figure out how to do it now in her absence. Again, I really don't know. I just thought it was kind of strange that she just disappeared right before the season started like that. And then they seemed to be scrambling so much. It just didn't seem to have the ducks in a row at all, going into that first event with the media coverage and the whole situation. So it's just been a real strange kind of start to the season. And now we've had several, or at least a few events now where we've had Smashbox back in place, we've had Jomez, we've had Central Coast back involved, and everything's been great. So I'm starting to get a little bit more into it, but what I said last episode definitely still applies. Ricky not having the best season is definitely impacting the way I feel about watching the coverage. Yeah, I don't know. Just like if I'm watching the scores, because I'm working a lot at night, so I'm not often home to watch the finals of these events live. I think Worlds is about the only event I got the chance to sit down and watch the finals live as they happen this year that I can remember. Maybe a couple other ones, but not really. I tend to work Sundays when a lot of these events are wrapping up, and I'm not around, so I have trouble like hiding from social media and trying to wait for the post round coverage to come out. That's just too tricky, especially running this channel and stuff. Like I got to be on Instagram at least and see what's going on with everything. Like just to wait a couple of days or whatever to stay away from all that stuff is tough, because I'm trying to run my own Instagram. I'm trying to keep the promotion rolling for this channel and whatever else. So to just hide from social media is not super effective for me personally. And that's basically what you have to do. I'm really sick of hearing the spoiler people, the people that just whine about the spoilers, and then they're on and people are posting stuff on Instagram and they feel as though they have to put a spoiler alert image first, and then you have to slide over to the next image to see that Paige Pierce won or whatever. I mean, if you're on Instagram, you're gonna see what happens. Just don't go on Instagram. It's that simple. It's in your hands to take care of it. It's one thing if it just pops up somewhere out of nowhere where you weren't expecting it. But like if you're a disc golf fan and you follow all these pages, you can't go on Instagram and then get upset because you saw that Paul Macbeth won something. You know what I mean? That's just ridiculous to me. I don't understand that. But so it's not, but that's what you have to do. And that's not necessarily all that doable for me. I mean, I could, obviously, it's not going to be the end of the world, but I like to keep up with everything. So I end up just looking at the scores on UDisc and seeing what happened. And then I think that also has an effect, you know, where if I go and I see what happened, I'm not as interested in seeing the coverage, especially if I go look at the scores and, you know, Ricky didn't win. Essentially, if Rick wins, I'm very happy to watch the coverage and be like, oh yeah, he did great and this is a lot of fun and let's go watch it and see how he won and whatever. That's awesome. But yeah, sometimes not so much. So that's me personally. Your mileage may vary on that, but I definitely came to that realization the other day. I was kind of looking back through some of my older videos and I was like, man, I forgot. You know, I almost started to forget how weird the start to the season was with the media, from that perspective of not having Jomez and Smashbox. And we've kind of been back on track now for the last few events, and I've almost forgotten about how silly all of that was. And I was like, oh, you know what? That was probably one of the major reasons why I've been feeling the way I'm feeling, where it just kind of, derailed what we had going. And that was one of the things that frustrated me the most about the situation, was just knowing that we had such a good thing working and everything was kind of rolling along in a really, really great way. And I feel like the key to anything and building fan bases for stuff is consistency and just keep going. You know, we see so many different entities come around in disc golf and then they disappear. That's just kind of how it's been going. I would love to know how many different channels, just out of curiosity, not like to bash anybody or anything, but just out of curiosity, I'd love to know how many different disc golf related YouTube channels alone have come and then disappeared in the time that I've been running this channel. It's probably quite a few. I can think of a few off the top of my head. I'd like to know that. So I don't really have a lot of other thoughts about this whole situation. I know that people seem to really like Todd Rainwater, from what I know. Especially all the players that have been invited to Nantucket and have been put up there and had a great time playing out there and hanging out on, like, you know, Vacation Island and riding bikes around and all that stuff. Probably, you know, pretty easy to like the guy when he hooks you up with that. But yeah, I'm sure he seems like a nice dude that people seem to like, and that's cool. And Jeff Spring definitely seems like a solid dude. Got a good head on his shoulders. He's done a lot of good work. He's run great events out there in Vermont. He's designed beautiful courses, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Once again, just best of luck with for all involved, really, for the tour, for everybody who's going to be running it now, and for Steve with whatever his future might hold. Whether he just kind of does what he was doing before that, or if he starts some kind of new venture within the realm of disc golf. Nothing but the best of luck wish to Steve. Much respect to him, and appreciation for what he's built with the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It's been amazing. It's been really cool. And he put himself out there. He put in the work, and he probably more than a fair bit of his own personal finances as well to make this thing what it is. And the players have a nice, strong, sequential tour with strong media and great payouts that they can go out and play, get their exposure, become fan favorites by getting out there on the media and playing at these amazing events and performing well in the galleries and all the other things that come from that. You know, our players really owe everything they have to the people that are running the events and the tours. You know, if they didn't have anywhere to compete, it really doesn't matter how good you are at throwing a disc. If there aren't people out there volunteering and there aren't people out there running these events and making the tour what it is, and giving them the chance to compete and show their skill and test their game against each other, against themselves, against the course, and display what they can do, that's really what makes it all possible. So huge shout out to Steve. Best of luck to him going forward, and I hope that the Disc Golf Pro Tour just goes from strength to strength and can take this thing to the next level. And we'll see what happens. So for me personally, I'm dealing with a little bit of an issue In my left foot, my right knee has been a problem for a while, and it continues to be, and I really don't know exactly what to do about it. But it hurts sometimes if I'm throwing a lot or I haven't thrown in quite a while, and then I get out there and throw like a long round, it will definitely be sore for a couple of days. I also work on my feet, standing around on concrete for 7-8 hour shifts, and that can definitely take a toll on my body. And so, yeah, that's been an issue for a long time, but this foot thing's relatively new. The last time I was out at Stubbs Stewart State Park a couple of weeks ago, and I did a bunch of filming and testing of some discs. Like you saw me throwing the MX3 and the Tiger Warrior up on the hillside at Stubbs Stewart to intro those videos. I threw those discs, I walked back and forth throwing those discs a bunch of times, just particularly the Tiger Warriors. I threw a number of shots. Then we played the little course once, and I threw some extra shots on that. Then we played the little course again, and then me and my buddy were running around throwing a catch disc at night under the stars, which was great. I have one of those light up night eyes discs, so I was throwing that around. And then we played part of the big course in the morning, but I was already kind of limping at that point. So we didn't finish the course, and it was like crazy humid down there because it had rained a little bit the night before, and it was a warm weekend, and yeah, it was real muggy. We were sweating like crazy, so we actually just only played half the course, which I actually kind of regret. I should have just soldiered on and played the whole round because I love that track, and it's rare that I get out there as nearly as much as I'd like to. So anyway, all that to say that somewhere in there I tweaked my foot, and yeah, I don't know what happened to it. My buddy Anthony, his girlfriend is a massage therapist, and I spoke to him about it briefly because we played Vance what was that, Sunday morning before I had to go to work. I got in a quick round out there. You might have seen on Instagram. I hit chains and basket again on the little short hole 7 at Vance that I've aced before, and I've taken so many different runs at it. I posted a video on YouTube of hitting the basket a couple months ago. I flashed right in front of the chains on Christmas Day with a brand new caltrop that I had gotten that morning this year, and I aced it last year. So I'm just like, I've hit metal, chains, pole, like I've aced it. I'm just all over that basket. I just can't get one to drop on camera. It's driving me crazy. But anyway, another tangent. There's a lot of very, very tangential podcast, I must say. I'm just kind of rambling to you guys because I wanted to check in. I love to record these and just say what's up. But yes, so we played out there Sunday morning, and halfway through the round, my foot was already hurting. After the round, it was definitely hurting, and then the next day, when I woke up, it wasn't super happy. Worked on it again last night, and it was not stoked. I'm like, I have a messed up right knee, and then my left foot is jacked up, and I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. I don't have anywhere to I don't got anywhere to go here, because I think perhaps the foot issue comes from the knee on the right side too, because I'm kind of compensating and putting more of my weight on my back foot, maybe because I don't quite trust my right knee. I don't know. It's a mess. So things in your heel and the underside of your foot are actually like a calf issue, because your calf muscles come down and are connected in that region. So to stretch out my calves a little bit. I also took one of my big water bottles and put it on the floor, and I rolled my foot on it. There was one particular point that it came to that was excruciatingly painful to roll it on, but after doing that for a couple minutes, it stopped hurting quite as much, and I woke up this morning, it's feeling pretty good. So I'm going to keep trying that. Maybe just be much more diligent about stretching out my legs, just in general. I think I'm getting to the point now where stretching before rounds and stuff is not quite enough. I think I need to just stretch on a daily basis and really get into the habit of making sure I do that. Just wake up and stretch, or maybe before bed, or some kind of habit where I do it regularly and keep everything loosened up. I'm a very flexible person. You guys have, anybody who's seen me, you might not expect that, but I actually am quite flexible. I could do a full split when I was a kid. When I was a little kid, I could actually kick my foot up so high that I could kick the brim of my own hat I still don't even know how I did it, but I remember I remember distinctly doing it when I was young, and I can like put my foot up really high. Like, have you ever seen like Big Germ can like put his foot like way up on a tree or something? He's got a lot more reach than I can because his legs are probably a foot longer than mine. But like, I can put the ball of my foot on top of a refrigerator from a standing position, just to give you an idea of like how flexible I am. So I think I've lost some of that flexibility over the years from just not maintaining it quite as much as I should with stretching and keeping limber. So I really need to get back into doing that. That would be, I'm sure, would help in a number of different ways in my life, but we'll see. It's tough to get into the habits to do those things. We're just very habitual creatures as humans, and it's easy to settle into negative habits, and sometimes it can be difficult to just change the way you behave on a day-to-day basis. But I just got to get over that and just really make sure I'm keeping myself loose, because I'm really getting sick of feeling like I'm kind of immobile with my legs, because even though I'm a big dude and I've been heavy for a long time, like, I'm not that immobile. Like, I'm pretty good in the woods. I can jog up hills. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm probably feel better than I look, for sure, when I'm out there and like my legs aren't in pain. I'm usually feeling pretty good, and I've been that way for most of my adult life. Even though I hold on to a lot of excess weight, my body is pretty strong, and I haven't had a lot of issues with injuries and stuff, but now I'm getting older, and I think it's starting to take a toll. Some of the wear and tear of pivoting onto that right foot to throw is damaging the knee over the last couple years, but we'll see what happens with that. I will hopefully be able to kind of figure out a way to just strengthen it and prevent it from being something that needs to be a surgery or anything along those lines. The reason I'm telling you guys about this, other than to just keep you updated with my kind of personal day-to-day, is I'm not exactly sure where that puts me in my workflow in terms of testing new plastic, because I might try to take a couple of weeks without throwing. As much as it hurts my feelings to do that, it just makes me sad to feel like I'm not going to go throw if I have opportunities to do so, because I just love it so much. But I feel like it would probably be smart to take a couple of weeks and not throw, because the foot thing seems to be mostly aggravated by that. And I think it's from pushing off my back foot onto my front foot for the actual, throwing motion for drives. I could probably play shorter courses and throw standstill shots. It probably wouldn't be too big of a deal. Although I don't know, because I was throwing a lot of standstill shots out at Stub that day. So I'm not sure exactly where the foot got hurt. And honestly could have just gotten hurt traversing the terrain there, because it's a lot of up and down hills. Even the little short course has a few hills, and just like trying to navigate those slanted trails and stuff is a little bit tricky for my feet, because there's a lot of weight for them to balance out, because I'm just a big dude. So I don't know. We shall see what happens. The good news is I have a lot of discs that are fully tested up and filmed, and I just have to edit it all together. I doubt I will get a review ready for you guys this week. I will probably be looking to do so next week, but I have the Guard, the Dynamic Disc Guard, the Fusion Raider, and the Discmania Spirit Fox, or Fox Spirit. I forget which one. And I think something else as well. That's all ready to go, and just got to edit the videos together and get that whole thing finished up, and we'll be ready to rock. And finally, for this episode, I want to talk to you guys about retired molds. In the past, always referred to as discs going out of production. It means that they're just not being made anymore. They may never be made again. They may be kind of re-released at a later date. You never quite know. But Dynamic Discs has recently released their list of retired molds, and they kind of switched it to that terminology, retired molds. I think it makes sense. Basically, it means like a fighter, for example, a UFC fighter, might announce that they're retired, go away for a while. Maybe they come back. Maybe they get the itch to come back. Maybe enough people have a want or a desire for their specific disc that they decide to do another run in the future as a special edition. They also have the custom run program. So like if you have the funds and you want to order a certain number, whatever that is, I'm not exactly sure what the number is to make that happen, but you can order them for yourself with a custom stamp or whatever. sell those as a fundraiser or have them for yourself if you really wanted to. And you can still have some access to the molds that way. That's interesting. Also, a lot of these discs are going, I mean, basically all of them are going out of production or being retired because they weren't really great sellers. So there's a good chance that there are plenty of them still out there on the retail market, whether they're at local shops, whether they're available online. You know, if you love the disc, there's probably still some of them out there that you can find, and then you can kind of stockpile a few. Having backups is a concept that I've always recommended, regardless of whether or not the disc is likely or unlikely to go out of production. If you have a particular disc that you like, that responds well to your throwing form, that works well, you love the feel in the hand, whatever it is that really draws you to that disc and makes you want to throw it and carry it in your bag, it's always a great idea to have backups of those discs. You know, I have several beat up soft magnets because they're my favorite. Every time I see one of those in the used rack at the Disc Golf Depot, I'm very likely to take it home with me. And therefore, I have a number of them that I can cycle in as needed if I lose one, or if I just want to switch out to a different one, or anything along those lines. If I want to let somebody borrow one, all that's good. I can take them out to the field and practice with them if I wanted to. I have several extras, and all that kind of stuff is a great concept. Now, it came to my attention that it seemed extremely likely that one of my absolute favorite discs on the market, the Latitude 64 Gobi, was going to be retired. I am almost certain it's going to be retired in this first announcement from Latitude 64 that should be coming any day now. I know they had the first runs. They had like one other run, and they've been out of stock on a number of different retailers for quite a while now, including Dynamic Discs. Or maybe a couple of places have just like a few red ones left. I only saw so many different color variations, and all these different things made me think they only really made a couple of runs of Gobis out there on the market. So I already had a few that I was holding on to because I really liked them. And then when I started to kind of connect the dots and see, okay, I'm fairly certain that these are done, they're not going to make these anymore, I started to collect even more. Now I have about, 15 or so. Probably a little bit overboard, to be perfectly honest. But I love the disc that much that I was like, I just really want to make sure I have as many of these as I can. So I scooped up some used ones. I got a couple of misprints. You know, I'm not buying them all for full retail price, that sort of thing. You know, I had a gift card to a retailer called Sportsman's Warehouse, and I went in there and they had one on the rack because they carry Dynamic Discs and Innova stuff there. So I grabbed that immediately, that sort of thing, you know. Anytime I see one pop up for sale or for trade on Facebook, especially a used one at a good price, I will likely try to grab it and add it to my little stockpile. It's not like a crazy amount, but it's still quite a few and should cover me for basically the rest of my throwing career, unless I just have a crazy streak of bad luck, just losing them over and over and over again. I should be covered for basically for the rest of my time throwing, most likely. So that was kind of the thought process there. I've been thinking about this in a number of different aspects. Like, does it make more sense to do that when a disc gets announced as going out of production? Does it make more sense to try to like stockpile them and hold on to them? Or does it make more sense to switch to something that's more readily available? Like, there are a lot of great mid-ranges out there that I could throw. With the case of the Latitude 64 Gobi in particular, it's a very unique disc. It's an overmold. It's low profile. A lot of them are quite flat. Some of them have a smooth dome top to them. They're a faster mid-range. They're considered a speed 6, which I agree with. They're a little bit faster than most mid-ranges. They punch out there a little bit. They kind of have a mid-range feel and a little bit more closer to like driver distance for me for most shots. They're laser straight. They're super neutral. It's just one of those discs that really connects with me, and I feel is somewhat unique, especially in feel. The feel is very unique, and I really love it. And it made me feel as though that, yes, for this particular disc, I would absolutely prefer to try to get them and keep throwing them and try to hold on to as many as I can because I love the disc that much. If it's a disc that you're not super attached to, it probably makes more sense to find something else. And, it's funny because a lot of like Innova players, for example, will throw Rock 3s, T-Birds, AVRs, maybe a Gator, then Firebirds, Destroyers, all those type of like really popular classic discs. Now, there's actually probably a pretty smart thing to do. There's a lot of them out there. First of all, there's a million different variations, colors, stamps, all that stuff. I mean, they've just produced so many of those type of discs, like really popular discs, like a T-Bird, like a Firebird, like a Destroyer. So there's just an endless amount supply of them out there to find on the used market and etc. Also, they're never going to go out of production. Like the Firebird is just going to get made forever. Why would they ever take the Firebird out of production? It's just an incredibly popular disc. Same with the Destroyer. Even losing Paul McBeth, switching to Ricky Wysocki on the Star Destroyer, it's still the number one driver in the world according to sales, based on that article that we discussed from Infinite Discs on a recent episode. So that disc is never going to go out of production, or at least it's extremely unlikely. You know, they're always going to make rocks. Discraft is never going to take the Buzz out of production. So if you throw a Buzz and you like it, it's probably a really smart disc to throw, because you know there's almost an endless supply of them out there that you can find, again, on the used market or on retailers. And they're very, very, very unlikely to ever go out of production where you can't get them anymore. So that's kind of one reason why it really does kind of make sense to me to stick to molds that are actually popular and a lot of people throw, because you don't have to worry about that. The other thing I was thinking about in terms of the retired molds, and I almost wanted to kind of wish I had access to Jeremy Resco to ask him this flat out, but two of the discs that went out of production were the Criminal and the Suspect. The Suspect is like a overstable kind of tweener disc in between a mid-range and a putter, and then the Criminal is just a super meat hook overstable 10-speed disc, like a faster, more overstable Felon. I almost wonder if part of the reason why the Criminal doesn't really have the sales numbers of some other discs is because the thing is just useful forever. You're never going to beat a Criminal in to the point where it's not going to do what you want it to do. Like, I mean, if you had a Lucid Criminal, I can't imagine how beat up it would have to be to stop being overstable. It's such a beefy disc. You'd have to just be throwing it against rocks or something, or like throwing tomahawks on parking lots for for a couple of days to get that thing to break in to the point where it's not going to be an overstable disc that you can throw and get that strong fade and kind of work around a corner right to left. You know, like that's just it does what it does. You know, and so I wonder if that's part of the. I wonder if they kind of considered that, like, oh, maybe these Criminals don't sell as many numbers because if you get one of them and you put it in your bag, it's always going to do what it's going to do unless you just beat it up so much that it's going to basically work for a long period of time. Like if I had a Criminal still in my bag, the most I would see needing is maybe one backup in case I lose it. It's not like a disc I'm really going to cycle in. It's something I'm just using for those really meat hook overstable shots. So it's going to keep doing that for a long period of time. It's not like a disc you're going to layer, you know, like a rock or a Buzz or something like that where you have multiples that are beat up to different levels. I don't see a lot of people doing that with a disc-legged Criminal. Anyway, that was just something that I had wondered if that was factored into the decision or not. The Criminal surprised me. The Suspect surprised me for sure in terms of the retired molds. I am not sure what's going to happen with the Latitude 64 releases. They're going to release that relatively soon and let us know what discs are going out of production, and I'm interested to see what it's going to be. So I'm not super worried about it. I think the Fury is safe. I feel like that's a great disc for all-around disc for a lot of different players, and I think that one is safe, and I have a few backups of that. I think I could get a few more and be covered for a long time on those. And that's a disc that I want to be flippy, so even if it gets beat up, it's not really going to be bad for the shots I want it for. I want it to hold that turn no matter what, and it starts off quite understable. So, yeah, and it's not a disc I'm throwing a ton, so it's not like I'm going to really, really trash it, you know. So I think that will cover me for quite a while. Maybe I'll pick up 2 or 3 more of those and just put them in the bin and let them hang out until I need them. The Caltrop is the one that I'm the most concerned about, for sure. The Gobi, I've made my peace. I've come to terms with it. I've come to terms with the loss. I've taken a deep breath and I've realized that, you know what? It is what it is. I have no control over this. It's a phenomenal disc that I will miss. And one of the main reasons why I am still sad about the Gobi going away, if I'm correct about this, is that it's such a great disc. I would love to recommend it to you guys much more often. But like if I'm going to make a video in the future about discs I recommend, or here are great discs for newer players, or anything along those lines, I'm not going to include the Gobi if it's out of production. That's just not smart. I'm not going to recommend you guys go search out on the used market on Facebook a specific disc. I don't think that's smart. Getting back to what we talked about earlier, I don't think that's smart for newer players to do that. I think it would make much more sense to go find discs that are in production and readily available. In fact, I recommend that for sure in other videos where, like, hey, if you're a beginner and you're looking for discs to start out with, used discs are great. But if you're talking about, if you find an older disc that is no longer in production, it's probably not a great idea to really get to know how to throw that disc and really learn it and build your bag around it, because it's going to be harder for you to find more of them. So it's not really the smartest plan to get that disc. You're probably better off getting something that's still in production, so that you can find more of them if you lose it, or if you want to have backups, or if you want to layer them in the bag, and all the benefits of having a disc that is readily available. So I've come to terms with the Gobi, but I'm really worried about the Caltrup. The more time goes on, the more I feel like I just really love that disc. Could I replace it with a number of different things? Sure. Would it be that big of a deal to switch to Zones, another disc that's almost certainly never going out of production? A couple of Z-Flex Zone, and then some Jawbreakers for my approach layups like I use my soft Caltrup for. Would that be a huge deal? No, it really wouldn't. I've had Zones in the bag before. They're phenomenal. I love those discs as well. They basically do the same thing. They're a little more overstable and they have a different feel, but ultimately it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I love the Caltrup, and it is one of the discs that I trust the most out of any disc in my bag. If there's a shot that I'm uncertain about in terms of an approach, I would rather throw that disc just because I know what it's going to do. Anytime I have like an open approach, that's the disc I'm reaching for. Time after time, I will put it on a hyzer, throw it strong, and I know it's not going to overshoot the basket, and it's going to go straight, and it's going to fade and drop right by the basket and sit. It doesn't really skip. It just does what it needs to do over and over and over again. If I need to throw a little spike hyzer, a little short hyzer off the tee, the Caltrup, again, just a perfect disc. I've aced with both of my Caltrups in my bag. I've aced with on short holes, and they just work phenomenal for that. And I've been all over that damn basket at hole 7 advance with my Caltrups over the years, So I really do hope that disc sticks around, and that's another one that I have decided absolutely, if it does get announced as going out of production or being retired, I will for sure look to stockpile a few of those and continue to throw it. But I just thought that was an interesting discussion. Like, is it worth it to do that, or would it make more sense to just switch to something else? Andy's been going through this for a while now, because we're both pretty sure the Surge is going out of production, and he's like the foremost Surge fanatic left on earth. That's like the only distance driver he really throws. And when the Zeus was released, or the Kong at the time, when that disc came out, he strongly considered, like, maybe I should just switch to these, just take my medicine and just switch to all of these, get rid of my Surges, and just move on. Because same thing, we have not seen any new swirly ESP Surges hit the market. They did like a glow swirly ESP Surge run at some point for Ledgestone, but they're super beefy, and you might as well just throw a Z Surge. Like, they're not really that different. The Z Surge is like not anywhere near as good as the ESP for some reason. That particular mold just ends up being like a glideless kind of like hog of a driver in Z plastic for most arms. Just not the same. Like an ESP Surge just stands up and flies for so long and holds such a nice line. The Z Surge, in his experience and mine, just really doesn't do the same thing for his arm speed or mine. So, yeah, it's something he's been struggling with for a while now. Like, what's he going to do? And I think he's decided that he's going to try to hold on to him for as long as he can. And again, keep his eye out on the used market. Like if I'm on Facebook and I see somebody selling an ESP Surge, I will for sure let him know. Let him know. I'll message the people. I've secured a few for him, various places. One time I was at the Disc Golf Depot and there was a Surge in the rack, and it was an ESP Surge, and I was like, oh, I should just buy this. I'll buy this for Andy. And I thought it was orange. It looked like a pale orange to me. And I was like, oh, there's like an orange ESP Surge here. You want it? It was $8 or something. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? Grab it. And I got it, and I gave it to him. He's like, dude, this is mine. He's like, hey, this is yellow. I was like, oh, I guess it is kind of yellowy. I don't know. I looked orange at the time. I wasn't like it wasn't something I studied very deeply. He's like, A, this is not orange, this is yellow, and B, this is my disc that I traded in the other day because I don't like that particular one. I was like, well, great. That's perfect. So I brought it back, and Jerry was like, yeah, whatever, put it back on the shelf. I'll give you the credit for it. I told him what happened, and he was cool about it. It was pretty funny. But that sort of thing, So that's the thing you can do. If you have a local shop, keep an eye out on the used market. Maybe if you go in there and be like, hey, if anybody trades in this particular disc, give me a call. I'm very interested in buying it. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to do that for you. Always pretty doable to put out a post on Facebook and say, hey, I'm in search of this disc. I'm looking for Gobies. Whatever color, whatever weight, I don't care. Let me know what you got. And then a lot of times those are pretty fruitful. I've come up with a lot of discs that way, just putting out an in search of post. And yeah, oftentimes you could trade something you already have and get yourself some backups and stuff without having to spend too much money. But yeah, I've definitely decided that the Caltrop is going to be one that I will continue to throw even if it gets retired. I'm just hoping that doesn't happen, although I'm kind of expecting it to. It's another disc that I haven't seen a lot of different runs of. I feel like most retailers are pretty low in stock on those, and I haven't seen any new ones pop up in quite a while. So, yeah, I don't know. But luckily, it is an overstable disc. My Opto one basically has not broken in at all. It's not something I throw a lot. My Softy, I throw a ton on like almost every open approach. I'm throwing that disc. And it's definitely got a bunch of wear on it. It looks real beat up, but it basically still does the same thing. It does exactly what I want it to do. So even if I had to just keep using that one for much longer and have a few softies just hanging out, brand new, fresh on the shelf, it'll get me quite a bit of coverage there. So there are definitely some options to weigh there. Let me know, have any of your favorite discs gone on the chopping block? What was your decision? Did you decide to keep throwing them and try to stockpile a few? Did you decide to move on? And what were some of your thought processes there? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much to everybody who continues to support this channel and this podcast. I have all kinds of giveaways live right now. If you guys are hearing this within a few days of posting it, the Tiger Warrior giveaway, MX3 giveaway, my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest where I'm giving away 2 Paul Macbeth Discraft discs, a Ricky T-Bird and a Saki Bomb Mini, and also a beautiful ESP Glow Swirl Thrasher. All 3 of those giveaways are still live. Just go check out my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest for that. And I think I'll be giving away some more Discmania plastic here coming up very soon. So stay tuned to all that stuff. Go check that stuff out if you have not. It's real easy to enter to win. And I appreciate you guys very much for listening to me ramble today. Let me know your thoughts on this whole Disc Golf Pro Tour situation. Are you happy about this move? Are you ambivalent? Do you think this will be a good thing, a bad thing? Let me know what you think. I had people submit questions as part of my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest, and I got just so many entries to that already. Like 375 different people have entered, and a bunch of you left me questions on there. I may never get a chance to answer all of them. They may be, what's your go-to putter or something, some question I've answered a number of times on other question and answer episodes, but I do intend to go through, read every single one of those comments, read every single one of those questions at some point, and compile a list of the ones I want to address, and probably bring in Andy, and we will sit down and do a question and answer episode of the podcast coming up very soon. Probably do a few of those because I have a lot of questions and I'm sure are valid that we could discuss and break down. So look for some Q&As coming up here for the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. Also have some folks that I'm hoping to interview relatively soon. In the heat of the tour, it's tough to track down players, but there are definitely some other folks involved in disc golf that I've been in touch with. And I hope to bring you guys interesting interviews and other content coming out real soon. My voice is about to completely give out on me, so I'm going to let you guys go. Much love. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.